Been a big favorite for Wolf. He's 4-0 on the Malzahar. SKT haven't flexed the Malzahar to mid. That was a KT thing. On 7.3, even though Malzahar's been readjusted in lane, you don't get the same Voidling harass that you did before. The suppression still prompts QSSs on multiple members. And just like when Skarner was in the meta, you remember that dealing with suppression is difficult. Strong laning phase, a smart to ban away the Mals. And this is a pick I was going to talk about pretty extensively. The Lee Sin pick, because score career is 2-9 on Lee Sin, by far his lowest win rate of any jungler. It's just not a champion that he seems to play comfortably. Peanut is undefeated on the Lee Sin, and Peanut's champion pool is under pretty intense scrutiny. This season, he has played 3 champions. Kha'Zix, Rengar, and Elise. Lee Sin, so that's score. That's Kha'Zix, Rengar, and Lee Sin. Hasn't played the Elise. So with Lee Sin gone, Rengar banned, the only champion that Peanut has experience on is that Kha'Zix.
All right, now, so the Rengar and the Camille are banned away. LeBlanc has to be the final from SKT, so this could just be a Kha'Zix pickup for the side of KT Rolster if they want to opt into that. Or Jace, something that has made it through.
And a lot of teams have moved away from Jace. A lot of teams only place Jace mid, but this is certainly a flex pick Jace. KT are one of the only teams in the world that can play no tank lineups and succeed in closing out games. So often, the Maokai just outlasts the Jace. The comp with the tank outlasts the poke comp. We still may see that. Both these teams have been highly prioritizing Maokai, especially in recent weeks. But both Smeb and Pawn can certainly play the Jace. And for the reactions on the side of SKT, only Varus taken away for AD carry. You could understand Jhin being a high priority, but instead, they go for the blocker pick. So in his interview post-match, last time we saw Bang & Wolf, that was the series against against Samsung, I believe. They talked about how in lane, Ezreal can outpush Jhin from level 1 with range on his Q1 auto attack and does well into Jhin. And Deft, in his Korean career, since he returned, is 0-1 on the Jhin. So they're not prioritizing Jhin because they don't necessarily respect Deft's Jhin, but he certainly respects Deft's Ezreal.
Oh, well, here we go. Very early lock-in on the Rumble for Smeb, which confirms that this is going to be the Jason mid, unless
teleport bot lane,
unless they want to run the TP bot lane.
Well,
and it might just be that. This would be such a bold move from KT. You can see they're thinking.
Don't get baited, Achilles. Come on, it's not going to be a lock-in this early of the Talon.
I mean, we weren't expecting that from Longzhu, and then Fly did it twice in a row. So you never know with Pawn. He's the one that has the world skin.
That's true.
So
we can confirm he has played Talon in his career, as evidenced by the skin. Kha'Zix priority going down. There were some further Kha'Zix nerfs recently on 7.3 and 7.2. Elise has kind of been shooting up in priority, as I mentioned, 2-0 for score. So happy to hand over the Kha'Zix if SKT want it. But here's another jungler that's been jumping up. First game of the season on the Graves. It was actually Spirit from Afrika who out-jungled Peanut very extensively on the Graves into Rengar and another champion, I believe, on that day.
And that pretty much exhausted all his energy because then Spirit's performance kind of shot down after that.
This is really intriguing. We don't often see double solo lanes locked in versus no solo lanes locked in. So the actual second round of bans is very interesting. There's not going to be as much targeting available for both teams. So it's just going to be a different nature to what we usually expect. SKT looking for both mid lane and bot lane, but not needing to necessarily wait unless they have a very risky pick to last pick. So they should get double counter pick. KT picking power, picking pushing lanes, but a lot of options available to SKT.
KT still banning away the Maokai despite having that Rumble.
Support and AD carry. What SKT is going to be targeting, double support ban to Tahm Kench and the Nami. Trying to find a preferential lane for the Karma. It's very difficult for KT because they can't ban out one role. You could look towards the top. I mean, you're banning out Maokai when Rumble does very well in that laning matchup. It's not going to be a Rumble jungle either because the Elise is included, and we haven't seen Rumble jungle much. And they basically banned away the 2 safe red side first picks in the second round, but they've already shown their solo lanes, so the value there, to me, is a little bit lower.
Yeah. So now, first pick, second round going over to SKT. Looks like Nautilus could be the snatch up for the top lane.
Be the safest frontline tank, most reliable, strongest laning phase as well. So just trying to outlast the Rumble in the early game, get a Spirit Visage, and then be able to even the lane very easily. For KT's bot lane. Needs to be a completed bot lane in this rotation. Jhin available, but good scouting you can see from SKT is looking more and more like They don't want to opt into the Jhin.
Caitlyn's something that we've seen Deft play before. He will go ahead, lock that down. So far, I believe actually Bang and Deft have shared pretty much the same exact champion pool throughout the split. Haven't seen any unique champions come out. So Caitlyn and Thresh will be the bottom lane for the side of KT. So Mata going back to a classic.
Speaking of classics, waiting for Faker's mid lane pick. The Rise is open and available at last bit. A lot of options to take into what is now confirmed to be a Jace. One of Faker's highest win rate and highest play rate champions will be locked in. So a lot of power on the side of SKT. Very good lanes for Peanut to gank. He has access to instant cast CC from range in both lanes when the ultimate is available in terms of the depth charge and of course the Rune Prison from Rise. So if Peanut can steady his performance and actually be able to stand up to score, because remember, even though KT Rolster lost to the Rocks Tigers in the final of the 2016 summer season, Score was on top of Peanut extensively in that series. Peanut's Hecarim very forgettable in the final game. So Peanut needs to stand up to his former teammates and also history, because this is a tough matchup for him.
I mean, it was Score's now teammate Smeb that saved that game for the Rocks Tigers. So Peanut definitely has an uphill battle, as does Huni. So the last time these guys clashed, Riven versus Hecarim, they reversed the matchup. Smeb came out on top every single time.
Yeah, when you win the reverse matchup, that lets you know that that man was on point on that day. And Huni has looked good this season, but if you think about it, what was his one kind of down performance against Marin? And Smeb is the only other top laner that inspires the same level of fear in this league. But every matchup is a star matchup. This is the series that everyone wants to see. KT have been bold, blind picking both solo lanes in the first round. Needed to complete a bot lane. Bit of a kill pressure on this one. So only the Ezreal is kind of a position that could have been attacked by KT Rolster, but it's Bang & Wolf, the dependable bot lane, versus the new dream bot lane of Deft and Mata. It's SKTelecom versus KT. It's Telecom Wars. Everything is working for this first game.
That it is. And let's not waste any more time, Papa Smithy. Let's go ahead and jump onto Summoner's Rift for Game 1 of the Telecom War here, Spring 2017. KT Rolster versus SKTelecom. Let's get it started. Here we are. Fans here, 5 p.m. in the afternoon, middle of the week. Closer to the end of the week, I suppose, but still have made their way out to the Seoul East Stadium in Sangam to come and watch these two titans clash.
To count the time. The tickets sold out in seconds, Achilleos. They went instantly as expected. Not everyone has been able to get off work or school, but they'll certainly be filing in as this Game 1 continues. No interesting Keystone masteries, apart from perhaps Fervor on the Ezreal. But pretty standard stuff, all things considered. There's a lot of invades early. No Maokai this game, so not as much incentive to go for the invade onto a Raptor camp. Blind picking your mid laner against Faker has always been a risky thing to do, but that famous matchup, you know, the one that everyone thinks about when they're talking about how Pawn was Faker's kryptonite, was the regional tiebreaker back in 2014. Samsung White 3-0'd SKTelecom T1K. People kind of forget that Pawn got the counter pick 3 games in a row. This game, we do see Pawn having to blind pick his champion, and of course Faker has triumphed over Pawn multiple times since then. The last time Faker and Pawn met was in group stages of the 2015 World Championships, EDG versus SKT. That was Faker on the winning side both times. Been on the winning side quite a lot in the last 2 years, it turns out.
I mean, it's been quite a while since they've fought each other. Pawn, of course, having his issues last year. So now coming back into Korea. And again, he's had some ups and downs in his performances thus far. Hasn't affected KT too much in their win-loss ratios. You can see both of these guys coming in very even. But will Pawn excel against Faker? Already going in for some early trading. Won't have too much power behind him yet. Needs to get those first couple items coming through on that Jace.
Talking more generally about the team comps, SKT have quite a lot of different options. Very flexible comp from them. As we mentioned already, instant cast CC in the lanes means that both Ryze and Nautilus are a joy for Graves to gank for, given that he brings burst and not much more. The 1-3-1 is very powerful. And KT have gone for this no-tank comp that is kind of all the rage or maligned, depending on who you talk to around the world, because people say, why not just go for the tank? It's more reliable. You can face check and put down wards. And tanks have obviously been the source of much frustration when discussing the 2017 patch. But KT have been in the one team to really reliably play out these comps that are really about sieging, hitting power spikes. If this game gets to the point where Ryze and Nautilus are 3-4 items in and they're split pushing, KT don't have many options apart from a chance pick and forcing the siege. So it's very much grouping, less than wanting to divide up the map. It's not like team fighting is a problem for SKT in the late game either. The SKT more flexible, but KT, if they get going, the snowball may be enough to win the game.
Yep. See Faker right there cheating down into the river, just hovering around where Peanut was. Big shock blast comes through. Faker out of mana, but he's got the ghost. That'll be enough. Score doesn't want to try to go in for the flash to get the cocoon. Just a bit too risky. So Faker makes it out with his life.
If you think about team fights, while KT have some good team fight tools, initiation, outside of Elise and Thresh, which are kind of situational, not the most reliable initiation, isn't there. They don't really have the teleport flank, even though they don't have the Poppy Maokai or Nautilus in the top lane. And then you consider Ezreal, because Ezreal was the big high priority for Bang. Laning matchup, not fantastic against the Caitlyn, but manageable. In the late game, how do they ever lock down the Ezreal? With the Arcane Shift and Flash Up, they have no tools to deal with Ezreal if he gets going in the team fight phase. So team fight phase looks really tricky for KT, but they didn't draft this for the team fight. They want to get a fast start. They want to be pressuring lanes. For now, very even. So SKT, they're more comfortable, but we're only 5 minutes in. Plenty of action still to come.
Yeah, but I mean, for SKT, the longer it takes for action to pop up, the better things will be for them. They have that massive scaling factor with Faker in the mid lane. Already has that tier of the Goddess going up. We'll be working on the Catalyst coming up next. Pawn finds Peanut in the river.
Not often that a Graves will win the 1v1 ward clearing battle, but the threat of Ryze and also the smoke screen meant that the Hyperdrive W was cancelled. Couldn't get all the autos in.
Second day in a row, we've seen some good smoke screen use.
Not an ability you talk about much, but I remember when it was released, right, it was talking about, okay, we want to have pure utility spells that don't do any damage, and smoke screen is definitely one of those where the damage is so just completely unnecessary, and in general, never really, you kind of have that mana versus damage trade-off where you're like, well, I'm only using this for the utility. But the utility of that spell, it's like the Nocturne ultimate, it's so massive, and when it's on point, it really works strongly as Score continues to return around mid.
Feels so good when you kill somebody with a smoke screen, though.
Smoked to death.
They're vaping too hard.
No memes there at all.
Score just hasn't found that way in. Wants to try to shut down Faker. But just going to be clearing through the jungle so far. He's keeping up with Peanut relatively well.
We're going to talk about Windows, Achilles, because we're back to Season 4 analysis, because guess what? A lot of tiers going to be on the side of SKTelecom T1. Lets you know that the power spike is going to be pretty much delayed to 25 minutes. Mada's doing his best key impression, trying to freeze the wave. So far successful.
A lot of harass from Wolf, though. Throws out that dark
Caitlyn's here with a BF sword.
That's going to be the hook. They throw down the trap, but Wolf will walk around. Won't get caught up at that one. See if Wolf can still make it out of here. Live play back in from Mada. Trying to get him. They just forced the flash to get both of the summoner spells out from Wolf. And he makes it out alive, but barely so.
That was really, really close stuff. It looked like Mada was being disrespectful, but because Caitlyn was going to be in range of the Dark Passage, it almost ended up being a kill. The exhaust was the big winner there. Caused Caitlyn to miss about 3 or 4 auto attacks. Would have cemented her doom. The Karma. Really interesting story of these bot lanes, because honestly, KT's represents those who left. I'm talking mostly about the 2014 big Korean exodus, because Deft and Mada, of course, both popped over to China on different squads. Deft on EDG, Mada on first Vici, then RNG. Whereas Bang and Wolf, when they left, end of 2014, dependable bot lane on SKT T1S, but no more than that. They'd never played on the same lineup as Faker. They looked reliable without being stars. Both of their careers took a huge upward ascent when they joined Faker, as does most people's careers, but even their laning obviously went up leaps and bounds, their reputation around the world. People were talking about Defton's 50% kill participation or damage share in Worlds 2014, and people weren't really talking about Bang & Wolf at all. But now, it feels like Bang & Wolf have the reputation. Reputations only count for so much as, here we go.
Yeah, Mata flashing in the hook, gonna go wide as Peanut dashes to the side.
Mata's low.
Keep himself alive. Mata does go low. True Shot Barrage comes through from Bang. Not going to connect onto anybody, but now Pawn going to be the target. Wolf coming up. Going to be looking for that Mantra Q to try to slow up multiple members. Could get a really big hit onto Mata and Pawn. Realm Warping coming through. He'll get placed right in range to get on top of Pawn. Flashes away to try to keep himself alive. Mata still trying to sprint his way out. Big equalizer thrown down by Smeb, but everybody's going in. And that's going to be first blood going over to Pawn. Comes up with a kill onto Faker, and they fire back with another one, taking out Wolf. That looked so bad for KT Rolster, but the team play turns it around.
Yeah, Smeb sped it. He had the teleport advantage because Huni had teleported back to get into lane. You could not ask for a more picture-perfect equalizer. Somewhere Marin is watching this map. This game with a tear in his eye. It was so beautiful because it looked so bad for KT. They get chunked out and then everyone's chasing. And if Karma had flashed and hadn't had to flash before, she would have flashed over this wall, got a 2-3-man Karma Q, slowed people, and there would have been immediate kills. But Smeb disengages, goes for the teleport, still blinking health bars on KT. And even though they enter this fight at such a health disadvantage, beautiful equalizer, beautiful turn, and exactly what KT needed because they have the comp that has to get it done early.
Just completely cutting off Peanut from getting back into that fight. Wonderful equalizer, got a smattering of damage in, but then just zoning SKT quite well, and just 2 kills on the board for KT all of a sudden, where it looked like they could have lost 2 or 3 members.
I mean, just look at the immediate power. Berserker Greaves, BF Sword compared to Pickaxe Tier. Rise not even at Catalyst yet compared to the Dirk on top of the long swords. You see the extra items that are there because of the team fight going the way of KT. Because if it was just 2 long swords or 4 long swords in a tier, it's not the same as the Dirk and the other things that were completed. You need immediate power to hit your rotational advantages for the KT comp. So critical. Really nice stuff from Smeb, who, you know, we talked about it in the pregame. He's the one guy who, because of the meta largely, but also his own performance and fitting in with his new teammates, has been down on expected performance. Sure, you could say Smeb's played better than Pawn. You could argue that, but the expectations for Smeb are right up there, as in the top 3 player in the league, regardless of position. You know, Pawn, people didn't know where he was at. He's been good without being outstanding. Smeb's been a bit down, but this game, 10 minutes 45, already completed Leandri's. He certainly had a good start.
Yeah, and that is just going to make things very brutal for Huni trying to match him up in that top lane. Does have that Spectre's Cowl and the Merc Treads coming through, but with that percentage HP burn, it's just going to be hurting him quite a bit in those exchanges, so Huni's going to have to play this lane very cautiously. So far has kept up in CS. You mentioned, you know, getting that early MR helps out that Nautilus quite a lot. He's got very reliable wave clear with the Riptide, so he's been keeping up, but not having TP at that crucial moment is what really costs SKTelecom.
So when you have a comp like KT, sure, you can look at the items, you can look at the gold, say, okay, KT's got a gold lead, they're winning, but what you really look for when you have a comp like this without a tank is what is the status of the warding battle? Where is the vision battle being won? And you can see that in a comp that really wants to cut between lanes, go for aggressive dives, move to take turrets first, you need a vision advantage. And there's a lot of control wards sticking on the side of SKT defensively. That means KT can't make those aggressive rotations, can't try to get first turret bud or first brick, depending on how you want to call it. So KT need to start grouping with vision. We need to see the Mata score invades trying to get vision supremacy. Because if vision is even or in the advantage of SKT, that's really big to counter the comp that KT are running.
Yeah. For now, vision priority around the Dragon, going to be a little bit relaxed. SKTelecom have pushed in, gotten a couple wards around the red buff of KT Rolster, which will be spawning in just under a minute. But Cloud Drake means that we could see that sitting there for a considerable amount of time. But KT, if they could get a pick down in this bottom side, it would be a very obvious objective to follow up with. You can see Score walking into the brush, will throw down the sweeper and clear this out, but he's been spotted. So Bang, going to be very safe to just go ahead, peel back underneath this turret.
Given the disadvantages in the late game, I think KT actually need to put a higher premium on Cloud Drake than most teams will. They have the Rumble, who's ahead, who has a quick Leandri, so fighting around the Cloud Drake and Dragon in general has always been the playground of a Rumble. And they also just want to have backup win conditions. They're probably not going to win straight up 5v5s unless they have a massive gold advantage. The 1-3-1 should be won by SKT as well. The stacking Drakes gives you another place to fight around, another win condition. So you can't really afford to sleep on it and just continue to farm out because that plays into the hand of SKT's comp.
Mata just chucking out a hook there, trying to get one off the Wolf. Won't come up with much. Shot barrage thrown down by Bang. Well, kind of wants to go for the push. Maybe get a recall in. Hasn't bought in a little while. Leave that mana mute. Meanwhile, in mid lane, Faker goes quite low.
He's chunked out, so Drake could certainly be something to turn on. Or the vision that we've already mentioned is probably the biggest thing for KT to work on. Clearing one control ward, taking away a blue buff. Important for KT Rolster as it forces Bang and Wolf to back off.
Yep. Pawn able to snatch that up for himself so he can be that much more pressive against Faker in this mid lane. Wolf walking around looking for a ward. Cocoon connects from score. Doesn't want to go in for a kill, however, unsure of where Peanut's at. Actually just now spotting him coming past the blue and Wolf camps. So just going to be playing it safe for now.
Getting chunked out a couple times. Picked up the honey fruit, but not enough.
Yeah, tries to throw out a little bit of damage onto Bang, but right now, just with that BF sword, Ace in the hole, not going to be doing a ton of damage. Could zone him out of the lane, that'd be crucial for KT, so they get a lot of damage in onto this tier 1 turret. But for now, it's just going to be trying to poke out where they can. Shock Blast comes over the wall, connects on the Wolf. Pretty big damage coming out for just the Yomus. On the side of Pawn, they get a couple hits in on that turret, but still, First Brick going to be evading them for a bit longer.
The upside of going for this mid Jace, you can actually poke your head around multiple lanes, and just like when Ziggs used to throw a Mega Inferno Bomb off cooldown into side lanes to get an advantage, Acceleration Blast, Shock Blast certainly does that as well. Just trying to get the HP advantage and start chipping down turrets. Still no turret taken, getting them lower and lower. Rumble predictably winning the trades pretty handedly against the Nautilus early, but items will certainly start to close that lead in terms of damage trades.
Let's see just how aggressive Smeb is going to go with this build. We've seen, especially from Marin with the Rumble, just, you know, full glass cannon, glass flame spitter. Let's see if he wants to opt into a bit more defensive stats. Mata flashing in, trying to get the flay onto Faker, but he's got the ghost and he makes it out alive.
And the reputation of Mata's Thresh is certainly there, although missed some skill shots last time we saw it. Did win the game, but not quite razor sharp on those flash flays as he was back in 2014.
Faker sprints straight down through the jungle, arriving in this bottom lane. Bang trying to get some damage in onto the turret, but Deft and Mata are both here to catch the wave, so won't be coming up with much. Faker's just going to recall. And it's just going to be some vision control coming through from both sides where they can, but ooh.
That's Jace. Hooray for lethality.
Yep.
We are still on patch 7.3. It's our first week of 7.3 in Korea.
And I mean, he did have some changes, but it didn't change lethality items. Yeah, so that's where he really needs to be hit.
Yeah, the Yoma's nerf comes through in 7.4. Not the 5 lethality. It's going to really be a big consideration. Jace will still be strong. Does feel like he's exclusively a mid lane pick. Although usually with a tank like Maokai in the top, not the Rumble. And KT the only team ballsy enough to go for these no frontline comps. But so far, not really growing the lead you'd expect with them. Now, they do explosive damage. If you pick the right fight, if you get some picks, it doesn't matter. You can still win. Speaking of picks.
Play comes down, Box not going to connect on the Bang. He's still finding kite back. Wolf, however, gets snatched up, dragged in, scores on the way. Could just be another kill coming through. Mata just fearlessly tanking up in the front line, but it costs him his life. They are able to answer one onto Wolf as he goes low, but that is just going to be a turnaround onto Score. Collateral damage from Peanut takes out the Spider.
And that was the 1,000th kill for Bang as well. The crowd just realizes the big cheer comes through. So 1,000 kills onto Mata. Feels good.
Nicely done by Bang. We're talking about that, you know, last time we saw SKT
stranded on 999 after their big turret dive went awry. Fountain dive, I should say.
Yeah, and what a time to go ahead and earn that for himself. So gets it in the first 17 minutes of Game 1 of the Telecom War. So congratulations to Bang, but
Mata once again, goes for the all-in engage. The box doesn't register crucially with Bang, and then they're just free DPSing down Wolf. They're wasting time trying to kill the Karma. Bang getting free hits. Mata dies instantly, even though it is this 3v2. And this time, Peanut's there. Your pathing needs to be so on point on this Graves to relieve pressure. The aggressive mindset of Mata has cost them a couple of times, not with kills previously. Now with a favorable trade to the scaling comp, and not going all wrong for KT. They do have a gold lead. Things going pretty comfortably for SKTelecom.
Yep. Seeing the push down towards the bottom lane from Peanut Faker. Won't be coming in with a Realm Warp yet, but Pawn, you're very far forward. No vision to that lower side of the river.
Level 11 on Faker too, so the Realm Warp would have been enough to actually close most of the distance, but very slippery is that. Jace?
SKTelecom, they start up the Cloud Drake. KT are aware of this, but if they want to try to contest, looks like the answer is going to be no.
Their vision has been so stifled, Achilles. They really don't have the map lit up in the way you'd expect with a Jace, with a Rumble, with no front line. Very, very shallow vision for them means that SKT take a free Drake against the run of play, at least in recent minutes. Blue buff transfer going to be completed. It seems like we're not going to be far away from Faker being rotated to a side lane, Ezreal clearing in mid. Pretty much comfort times for SKT.
Yep. KT just let that Infernal go, or that Cloud Drake go, but Infernal will be the second one coming through. So definitely going to be an objective to fight over. Speaking of which, first turret still has not come through for either side, but KT have been steadily chipping away at this bottom tier 1 turret.
We've seen the game plan around low health turrets like this time and time again. The Maokai, you put a ward down behind the outer turret, Maokai teleports in, 4-man, gets some kills, take the turret. With a Rumble, that playstyle is a little bit different. And also, control wards have been sticking around the bot lane turret. So KT haven't been able to make their trademark plays to get the first brick, to get the gold lead that you need with a comp like this. And with Rift Herald leaving the Rift, you know that it's almost 20 minutes and still no turrets down for KT Rolster. Standing gold's certainly there. Turrets that are low, no turrets down is pretty big issue for them.
Bang with that True Shot Barrage, still doing quite a bit of damage to death, despite only having that Mana Immune really coming through. Sheen is there.
Did you notice?
Ninja Tabby.
Yeah.
Yep.
So going for just trying to chill with those laning trades. Ninja Tabby Graves, the last time I remember seeing AD carries getting Ninja Tabby in the early game.
Mitigate that headshot damage.
To understand the theory behind it, and Ezreal, was always able to get situational boots. Zerka Graves not as highly prized for an Ezreal, so swiftness when they were strong. Lucidity obviously was a very common pickup for them, and if you can actually start winning laning trades against a Caitlyn, you defer to both these AD carries on a champion like Ezreal, and Bang's got something new, and it's definitely working in the laning phase.
Yeah. See, even in CS, up against Caitlyn, already a very good look. Now going to get a nice push in onto the turret, but Pawn rotates up top, and that will be the first brick coming through for KT Rolster. So SKT just not able to chip down the turrets enough to win that race.
It was a very clean play as well. They actually had double control ward on the route out for the Jace, so no chance of being collapsed. Answering turret comes for SKT in the bot lane. Again, you'd expect Caitlyn to be doing significantly better in the bot lane than she is, so much credit to Bang in that regard. Realm Warp threatened, but not taken by Faker.
Could tell exactly where he had tossed it out. Looked like he might have been threatening in case the Rift Herald was being taken.
Was already down, I believe, at that time.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Already 20 minutes into this game.
And this game has definitely crept up on us. It's been slow-paced at the start, but lulling us into what is certainly...
He's checking the Baron then.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Checking the Baron. False sense of security for sure. Baron would have been optimistic with Baron damage, but at least he's having to go tank just so they have some sort of frontliner. No sign of the Liandry's Elise, which has been a very common second item. KT do get second turret of the game. But finding a way to take the mid lane turret, even with Ezreal having pretty situational wave clear, is going to be difficult. And now the 1-3-1 starts, that Ryze is really set up to win.
Yeah, well, here we go, Faker. Moving up towards that top side of the map. Give Smeb a run for his money.
This vision was sweet. Seeing Seesaw so quickly. Skull getting DP oust in mid. Peanut walked up into the blue side jungle, put down 2 wards to allow Ryze to split push. Even trying to contest the Raptors here is Peanut.
going to push in, has the smite available, so just takes away the big Raptor. Nice snatch up for him. Now KT going to be trying to hold on to this tier 1 in mid. Hook goes out. Bang not going to fall for it. The turret just getting shredded down. Machine from this Ezreal working out quite well. Ace in the hole plus Shock Blast equals Ezreal below half HP, but he's still feeling a little bit feisty, a little safe with that Arcane Shift and his Flash available, so he's going to stick around and keep throwing out some of these Mystic shots and try to get back into a position where he can hit that turret again.
Just the fact that SKT is dictating this game so strongly with the scaling comp lets you know that not going to IEM, spending the extra time scrimming and practicing and scouting teams has certainly been put to good use, just as you'd expect from Coma, Rapid Star, and the other charges. KT, they've been playing the sort of game they've played many times, but the opposition is stiffer, and this actually goes against expectations, at least mine, in many ways, because previously SKT's performances against lower place teams, immaculate, absolutely dominating games. Last pick Katarina, regardless of comp, and doing super well, but against top teams, the Afrika game, other games, they've looked a bit shaky. KT have put top teams to the sword, but struggled against some of the lower place teams.
Oh, Faker really far forward. That Shock Blast comes through, gets a lot of damage, and he throws in the Rune Prison, but here comes Score. Cocoon connects. That's going to be Faker going down. Nice wraparound by Score to come up with the kill just in time, too. So Dragon's still not up for 30 seconds, but now can they get back in time? Hold on to this tier 1 turret. Looks like the answer is yes. Smeb just tossing out that equalizer to clear out the wave. Still gets a lot of damage in onto Wolf. And they'll have to back off, and this gives Pawn some alone time with the turret in top.
Good communication there coming through as Score's going to give Tony a bit of a love tap.
Oh yeah, he almost got through that shield. Smeb takes the Dark Passage out. He'll be safe, but now they want Score. Smeb does not have that equalizer to try to dissuade them from coming into this choke point, but Score can just take a ride. The rappel over into that Baron Pit, gets himself out safely, doesn't have to use the flash. So very well played by him. Not overreacting, knowing his limits.
The turnaround from Huni actually puts KT out of position for Drake, even though they got a kill, and it also pulled Jace down from top lane, so they didn't get an inner turret either. So the kill is not turned into an objective apart from DPSing down an inner turret. Infernal Dragon would certainly be a big objective for SKT to pick up. KT is so far out of position, they're considering a contest.
Well, there's no way that they could get in there, and it's like the idea of going for a fight is also just not strong enough, so they go ahead. They let that Dragon go over. They will trade a mid-tier 1 turret for it. Can they get more is going to be the question.
SKT out of position for this.
Bang takes a big chunk of damage. Hook comes through. Vada goes in, drops the box, but he's just getting annihilated. Last turret shot doesn't connect, so he makes it out with his life, but barely so. But Huni comes in the backside with the TP, jumps in onto Depth. Hook not going to connect. Now Huni getting chunked out, still not tanking enough.
Equalizer up.
Will be blocked by Peanut, but does he pay with that one? With his life, looks like the answer is going to be yes. Smeb drops the equalizer, goes in with the Zonias, comes out, should make it out alive. Pawn taking up a couple of these turret shots, will be able to exit around back into the jungle, and Deft can finish off the tier 2 turret. A trade on the junglers, but KT Rolster do come out with another turret.
So close to being more Achilles. The overheated Flame Spitter, one tick away from taking down Huni as well, but they get the bonus objective. Really nice rotational play from KT. They weren't serious in contesting the Drake because Equalizer was on cooldown, and we already mentioned it, they don't have other forces apart from something like the hook. So while Mata fell low, he was smart. Look at the casual sidestep here to sidestep away and predict the collateral damage. And then Huni comes in, but actually takes so much damage from Deft turning around onto him. The equalizer here, perfection from Smeb. 2 out of 2 that we've seen have been super on point. Zones them away from an inner turret, double turret for an Infernal Drake. Given the comp they have, where they don't want to go 35, 40 minutes and have 8% stats be relevant, is a preferential trade for KT.
Yeah. Having that Infernal Drake would have made it all the more sweet, but Huni certainly would have died in that context, but still barely makes it out alive. Couldn't tell if he was trying to dredge line to connect onto Deft or onto the turret to try to get himself out safely. Either way, still able to limp out.
Looks like Huni will continue, sorry, not Huni, Mata will have to continue to make pretty much suicide box plays, because box is the only thing they have to set up the Rumble ultimate. No other setup CC really there in terms of AoE for that Rumble.
Look like Faker had sidestepped that Cocoon in the top lane, so he's safe, doesn't take any damage. SKT are able to push back in, get that tier 1 in mid. Mata's eating a lot of damage. Now Smeb, all on his lonesome in the river, gets a lot of damage down onto Peanut, goes back in with a Flame Spitter. Doesn't make it into his zone as Peanut comes up with a kill with the collateral damage. So goodbye Rumble. Dredgeline forward from Hooney. Can't get in range to hit anybody, but now Score yet again coming in. Below SKTelecom by himself, has to burn the flash to get out.
Yeah, the 1x1 conga line means that a free pick is given. Crucially, it's the one person with teleport, so rushing Baron, not a possibility for SKT just yet, but if that was Score, certainly would have been the Baron force from SKT. Smeb was just really going for a walk in the park, didn't have vision, wasn't grouped with his team. Was definitely a brain fade after a really good start to the game for Smeb. Doesn't go punished in the ultimate sense, but the minions that were pushed up are now going to be reset. SKT are going to get the minion waves where they want them to be. So you always lose something.
Realm Warp here from Faker. Gets right back into it at the last possible second. Gets himself out safely. Did pop the ghost, however, but still keeps himself alive.
Yeah, we're a pick away from the Baron force. We know exactly what's going to happen. Wards continue to be pushed up. Control ward actually been sticking from KT for a long time. I spotted out Faker in his retreat path. At least camping that brush, hoping to catch out Bang. Red buff spawn isn't coming anytime soon though, so no incentive for Bang to walk into the jungle. One's been on point, you gotta say.
The skill shots certainly have been.
The collapse is coming here. They expect KT to be somewhere. This is definitely...
Oh, looking for Peanut. Shock Blast connects. Ace in the hole comes through, and he just gets popped before that redemption comes down. Kill going over to Pawn. Now hook forward onto Hooney.
Oh, the
cancels
cancel
out the dredge line. Nicely done by Mata. The box comes down for the slow. Big redemption heal will connect for KT, but Hooney still just too tanky. Won't be able to take down the Nautilus.
And queries on Peanut. Why was he not with his team? Why was he face-checking a different brush than the rest of the members? There was clearly communication that KT had multiple members in their jungle, but not divide and conquer. You should go with your teammates. Didn't do it. Punished. And now KT are the ones to get the favorable setting up of waves. And you give Jace and Caitlyn any free time with a turret, you know exactly what's going to happen.
Yep, and we can see it happening right now. Tier 2 in bottom lane will go down. Second inner turret to fall for SKTelecom. Just have that top one remaining for themselves. So playing around this bottom side of the jungle, these dragons coming up, it's going to be another Cloud Drake as our third and final before the Elder spawns. It will be that much easier for KT. SKTelecom will be able to answer with a tier 1 in top. They're still 2 turrets behind.
Gold lead though, you know, it's 2 turrets but nothing else. The farm is very, very similar across the members. Sure, 20 CS advantage for a Rumble, not a big deal. 13 CS advantage for an Ezreal is notable, given that you expect Caitlyn to be a little bit ahead, probably 20 CS at this mark, but not to be. Caitlyn will certainly get bigger and bigger. The one traditional AD carry that's still in the meta when it comes to AD attack speed crit. Now it feels like pure lethality or just simplifying builds is very much the stronger choice before crit itemization is changed. Def can get very strong. We saw Prey earlier this week pop off on the Caitlyn in the late game. Late game team fight comps aren't necessarily the friend of KT. They want to continue this lead. If SKT ever get a Baron and can 1-3-1, also have more reliable initiation and have late game Ezreal against this comp, I just don't see how KT can ever turn that around.
See, so far Baron not going to be coming through yet. Cloud Drake has spawned. It seems like that's where the attention is going to be turned to, at least for the moment. Realm Warp coming in. They want Smab. Just have Azonia throws down the equalizer. Dredgeline comes through. Flame Spitter coming out. Send out that Dark Passage trying to make
Faker.
safety, but now Mata comes in. Nice Zonius from Faker to dodge out on that death sentence. Mata gets locked up by the tether from Wolf, and he goes down. The first one that died. Dredgeline in on the depth. He falls low, pops the heal to keep himself alive. He's in the hole, directed onto Peanut, but there's just no way to get through Hooney. That's just going to be a nice pick coming through for SKTelecom as they take out Mata and lose nobody for it.
So easy to rotate first when you have both Karma and Rise, Realm Warp, and just the AoE movement speed. KT1 able to be in position. Pawn did nothing in that engage. So definitely advantage over to SKT. No big prizes. SKT have got the pick they wanted desperately. Traditionally, SKT get a pick post 20 minutes, it's Baron time, but the picks have been about as good as you could hope for from the side of KT when you're giving up a member. Can't even get a clean Infernal Drake because the health bars are really starting to flash on the side of SKT. And we see reprieve after reprieve for a comp that hasn't necessarily hit its stride as you'd expect. The reprieve stops soon, Achilles. The next couple of kills, the death timers get big, the Baron gets turned on. KT need to make it count. They cannot make any more careless mistakes.
Yeah, you can see already pushing in, getting some vision down in the pit, trying to clear out what SKT is responding with. They have to get the waves prepped right now. Huni, big wave pushing in that bottom side of the map. Banner of Command is there as well to really assist with it. The pings are coming through. They identify this, but now Wolf gets caught out in the jungle. He goes down as Smeb claims the kill. Nice pick for KT Rolster, but what can they get off the backside of it? Looks like it might just be that last inner turret at top.
You see that in the mid lane, mini wave being proxied as Pawn tries to set it up. Want to bring as many mini waves as possible. That's going to go for a kill.
Straight in on a Faker. Redemption comes down from both sides. Score. Lands the Cocoon. Faker gets popped right back up in the last second. One more shot from Pawn will do. Does he flash forward? Yes, he does. Comes up with the kill. Equalizer thrown down. Gets a little bit of damage off of Huni's life bar. He flashes in. Helps get the kill onto Mata. And they come up huge as Bang just starts firing away Mystic Shot after Mystic Shot into the faces of KT Rolster. Taking out 3-4 members now. As Smeb goes down, Score, the last one alive, and SKTelecom with Peanut here. They can just turn straight over onto that Baron at 34 minutes.
And KT got baited into looking for the fight. Faker lived too long. They got some damage onto Bang, but we got to that point, Achilles. No one can close the distance or make the Ezreal accountable. Bind picking your solo lanes means they had a game plan, but KT have been a bit wishy-washy about hitting win conditions. SKT have got the scaling going, they got a fight going, now they have a Baron, and now it's 1-3-1 with nobody being able to close the distance on the Ezreal. This is a big, big fight for SKT, and we get into the replay.
That redemption heal is so crucial.
Exactly, it keeps Faker alive, he's very, very slippery. Pawn has to flash for him, and Graves has already launched so much damage, just kills Caitlyn straight up, and then they turn around and Bang's free hitting, Peanut's free hitting. Huni, while low, is still a frontline tank, and this is why you don't see as many of these no frontline comps. They struggle to close out late game team fights unless you have a massive gold lead, and if you look at the gold, massive gold lead certainly not acquired for KT Rolster.
Yep. Now Bang at 1,002 kills. His career picking up that double in that last fight, showing why he is very easily argued the best Ezreal in the world. Def might have something to say about that. Could see that come through from him, but in the meantime, Huni's just going to get jumped on. Does have a Guardian Angel
not that much
available.
Damage here.
Going to try to buy as much time as possible. Throws out the dredge line, gets interrupted yet again by the death sentence from Mata, and 4 members of KT surrounding your dying body. He will, in fact, go down, but SKT, they're just going to punish this, so they get rid of the tanky front line, but they're not going to be able to take that inner turret in top. They might just lose an inhibitor. SKTelecom, they're going for the base. Equalizer thrown down by Smith. They're trying to buy some time, but this turret will still fall.
The KT are playing 2 lanes when SKT are playing 2 lanes when KT are tunneled on just top, spending all that time killing the Nollas twice, only not even picking up the inner turret because they had to react to the 2 lanes being pushed by SKT. This seesaw, it started with KT, but it's certainly all the way over on the side of SKTelecom. They also are the only team to pick up any Drake stacks. Yeah, this is the panic stations part for the KT fans.
Yeah, definitely not looking great for them. Largest gold lead we've seen so far, now accrued for SKTelecom. Just about 4,000 ahead of KT. They weren't able to stretch it past 1.5, 2,000 gold, so it's been quite an explosive lead now for SKTelecom. Still, there is that opportunity if KT Rolster can wait out the remainder of this Baron buff, which is almost 75% of the way done. They could swing themselves back into a lead, into a win, but they need to play the team fight perfectly.
And unfortunately, you know, we always talk about that, right? They've got definitely a lot of damage. There's things this team comp does. But if you challenge me to say, what does that look like? How do they get back into the game after they lost all their inner turrets? The vision's going to be pushed up from SKT, so much less likely to get caught, as KT was able to pick picks up in their red side jungle previously, and they don't have a lot of force at all. They only have Thresh hitting a hook and this Elise hitting a cocoon. Realistically, it's hard to see how SKT ever give them a fight that KT can hope to win, because KT don't have the tools to force a fight. So, barring a big misplay around Baron, around Elder Drake, it just feels like SKT can kind of run them around the map, and we've already seen that if KT spend all their time in one lane, they're going to lose multiple inhibitors for it.
KT, if they could force something around a choke point, perhaps that would be the time to shine with that equalizer. But SKT, onus is on them to just not fall for that. If they're able to do it. For now, KT just going to be trying to hold on to this last inner turret, to that inhibitor in bottom, which has a massive wave building up. Banner of Command used yet again by Huni. Just trying to keep the minion wave shoving in to take out these remaining structures inside the base of KT Rolster.
One of the best answers to the Rumble, who of course take a lot of time trying to deal with the promoted minion. KT completely reactive. 25 minutes of the proactive gameplay, but certainly now no longer with those same options. They never got the vision line down. That's kind of my big surprise, that KT was second in vision despite having the pushing advantage in multiple lanes, despite getting some nice snowball. The fact that they never got that vision down, that SKT controlled specifically around their blue buff, and they could never cut through. They could never take the turrets quick enough. And sure, they got a burst of gold. They got some objectives, but it wasn't enough. And this phase of the game seemed like an inevitability because KT were meandering and doing what they needed to do.
Figure now splitting in the top lane. Pawn going to come up here to try to answer him. We'll stop the wave from chipping away at that inner turret.
Now it's the Caitlyn dream. It's 6-item Caitlyn overtaking a fight. It's putting all the eggs in the deft basket, which, whoop, Samsung Blue tried that back in 2014 many a time. Seems so unlikely. If you're playing the percentages, you just don't see how KT can find their way back into this game, barring that big mistake from SKT. And plenty of teams in history have prayed for an SKT collapse, and very few have seen it.
I mean, in Score, he can't even try to come up with a pick on his own. You know, encountering Peanut right there, barely gets any damage down onto him because he just doesn't have any. Dead Man's Plate, Banshee's Veil coming through with the Guardian Angel. This is a very defensive Elise. So he won't have that burst if he's able to catch out somebody like Bang or Wolf.
Kind of makes you wonder why. Why not just AP Elise and go all in on early game? Maybe it's because they had the Caitlyn that they thought, okay, some sort of frontliner is important for a backup win condition, but doesn't seem reliable. Maybe it beats Kongdu Monster, but doesn't seem like the sort of strategy that will beat SKTelecom.
I would hope that you could beat Kongdu Monster for KT.
Well, we saw that match last time out, and if you remember, they meandered to 40, 50-minute games against the lowest team in the league. That was the skepticism about KT, was performances like that, you're like, where are KT at? Because they perfect gamed Samsung Galaxy in just the most spectacular fashion. And you're like, okay, KT have arrived. And look, it's just been really difficult to understand because that was KT's calling card, beating the lower place teams, and they struggled to do that a little bit recently. So it's really hard to say. You know, my instinct was that KT would have used their time wisely, would have a strategy. They went for this risky strat, but they just didn't execute it in the way that we've seen previously and in the way we've seen in scrims.
So now gold lead just getting steadily larger and larger. Elder Dragon getting ready to come up in just above 20 seconds. That's 3 stacks for SKTelecom if they can net that for themselves. Amplifying that Infernal Drake as well, so 12% additional for Bang and Faker, who have already been shredding with the amount of damage they've amassed for themselves. Pawn going to get jumped on. Realm Warp comes through. He flashes away in time to get away from that Rune Prison, however. Now big flash down for him. Mata getting hooked up by the dredge line. He's just going to get popped immediately as Huni comes up with a kill. Might just pay for this one with his life. He's had that Guardian Angel available, but he's able to walk out. Faker pushing forward into the base, looking for depth. Big shot comes through. Over 900 damage connects onto him, and Pawn goes down as Peanut picks up the kill. Smeb, stuck with the Zonias, is able to flash and zip his way out with the scrap shield. But it just looks like this is going to be it for KT Rolster. The Super Creeps getting ready to be coming down through that bottom lane as they knock out the inhibitor. SKTelecom, do they just stick around and go for the finish? Looks like the answer is going to be yes. Nexus turret number 1 goes down. Number 2 to follow very swiftly. Score gets jumped on, gets popped as Faker comes up with yet another kill. They get rid of Smeb. This should be the ace. The dredge line onto Depth does connect, and SKTelecom take out KT Rolster in game number 1.
A big statement game for SKTelecom T1. They finally showed against stiff opposition that this lineup can work. No longer were there big issues communicating around Peanut. Everyone played their role very reliably in KT. Big question marks on how they played out the game. A comp that they were very comfortable with didn't go their way, so how they get back into the series is going to be a question mark. I don't think we're going to see another no-tank lineup for KT Rolster because SKT seem to have it figured out.
Really does look that way. See what KT can piece together as they rotate over towards the red side, but certainly going to have to try to change up their strategy. Talked about it several times throughout the game so far, but again, not running a tanky frontliner. Having to rely on Score on Elise to be your frontliner is just not enough.
You just don't get mistakes. Smeb walking around the jungle getting caught, that's the sort of mistake that can turn the game, and it doesn't seem meaningful in another game, but because they lost out on pressure, they lost out on wards timed out while they waited for respawns, you miss your timings and you're done with a no frontline comp. You know, maybe you get away with that in a game against weaker opposition, but the reliability of that comp is not there against the best. And today, in that game one, SKT was certainly well on top of KT Rolster.
Yep. I think they're having a much more reserved performance on the rise from what we've seen recently. Not going for those party warps.
You just think about it. KT blind picking solo lanes, punished in many ways. SKT blind picking Ezreal, and Bang, probably the MVP of that game, would get my vote, certainly. Was super, super good on the Ezreal, and then KT's comp had no answer to it, making it look even better.
Find out pretty soon who the MVP for game one will be. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have game number 2. See if SKTelecom can close this out with a 2-0. If we will get that juicy 3-game set. We'll find out in just a few. So don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.